Welcome, everybody. I am Cynthia Crofoot, and I am going to host a small Q&A with a number of directors, writers, and co-writers of short films that were part of the Drama and Thrills Shorts segment of the Oakville Film Festival. These shorts will be available for virtual viewing and streaming on Tuesday, the 28th of July at 5 p.m. So head on over to offa.ca, that's Omega Frank Alpha.ca, to purchase your tickets. I guarantee you will love all of the films. So with me today, I have Anton Josef, who is the director and co-writer of Break Any Spell. I have Monty, who is the director and co-writer of Sons of Toledo. I have the director and writer Wendy Xu from Til It Blooms, and Roxanne Stam, who was the director and writer of Housemaid #2. I'm not going to try to say that in your language. Okay, so all amazing films, I have to tell you. They came at me from very different points of view, and all of them resonated with me. Congratulations on your creativity. So I think the first thing I'm going to ask is, Anton, are you a LARPer? Is that how the idea came to you? Because I loved how she was dealing with the deeper issue, the mental challenge of having a mother who is losing her memory.
Yeah, thank you for putting it like that. Yeah, it's to answer your question, no, unfortunately not. I'm not a LARPer directly, but in all other ways of my life, absolutely, I think I am. Huge fantasy fan. I've always been enamored with LARPing. I've been obsessed with it. I was always committed to trying to find some serious way of telling a story about LARPing. I have a lot of friends who are LARPers. So yeah, I think that's one big inspiration for the story. But most of the inspiration really came from, as well as my mom was a support worker for 20 years. And so a number of the patients that she took care of were people who suffer from Alzheimer's, in effect. And so the kind of daily stories that she would tell us growing up really left a very strong impression on me and my sister, who's the co-writer and producer of this. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit.
It does. And I'm going to say the one thing that all of your films have in common is that it deals with some emotional aspect of a mental challenge, right? Whether it's death or amnesia, or and I like that aspect of all of those things. So I like how you showed one girl's way of dealing with that challenge. I thought it was really great. And so Monty, your film, I'm going to tell you the most impactful scene for me in your film was at the very end when he went in and he cut his brother's hair and then went into the other room, and then there was like just all these tables, and I see it was, I get goosebumps. It was very impactful. This was based loosely on some factual events. How closely did it resemble the facts, and what drew you to this story?
Yeah, I mean, so my co-writer Matt Foss was hosting an event and producing an event for the barbershop community in Toledo, and they would tell him stories about the community and what it was like at that moment in COVID. At the time it was 2020, so like the Black Lives Matter movement, and just how violence was growing in the community, and specifically one barber, Marcus, described how emotional it was getting for him. And so he took those stories, and specifically what it was like to cut hair for people that he knew, people that were close to him. And Matt took that and basically made an arc of a story, and knew that he wanted these documentary elements, but asked me if I could join on to sort of help flesh things out and personalize it, and build in other poetic languages to it and direct it. the way it's structured is there's sort of these three narrative pillars in the film. There's that are fictional, that are sort of fictional of watching Marcus receive the news, have to deal with the news by himself on his lunch break, and then actually have to do the act of cutting the hair. But the guts of the film are documentary based, and the guts of the film are allowing the community to kind of speak for itself. Except for the mother in the film, all of the other people in the film are sort of non-actors. They are acting for the first time, and they're telling their own stories. And so it was really important to us to sort of center them as much as possible as we were trying to tell the story.
I liked how you did that. And I liked the interplay of the mud in the hands, and it had such a dual meaning to me. And you elaborated in the film, but I thought that was used really well. And it was very subtle, so it wasn't overplayed. Good job on that. I very much enjoyed that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a common phrase in the community of like, we're from the mud, we're born from the mud, and it refers to this grind, and they're really proud of it. And so we wanted to show moments where in the script it says things like they rub it on their hands like cocoa butter, but then it's also dragging them down, and it's heavy, yeah. And so it's also something you want to flick off as well. So we want to see how we could sort of interlace this narrative, documentary, and also poetic language together.
And back to the mud we return, right? So I liked that. I really did. And then, so from that, I'm going to go, Wendy, to you. I loved, because we all wear masks, and there's no harder time to wear a mask than at a funeral. And I loved that you visualized that with the flowers, and that they didn't come off until he let his grief go. And I got goosebumps again. Like it was a fabulous moment for me. It made me cry. I cry easily, but you guys all, got me. How did you come about that idea to visualize the face that we put on, especially at a funeral, the happiness with flowers?
Yeah, I mean, this story was very personal to me. My grandpa passed in 2013, and I wasn't able to kind of visualize and actualize the story until, very recently in 2022 and 2021, when we shot it and when I wrote it. This is it's all like very personal, and my dad was like a personal inspiration, how I observed that, and I wanted to use flower as sort of a visual medium to draw a little bit of a parallel, to show it in a visual way. I sort of grew up being very interested in visual arts, and sort of this whole concept came from some sketch pads that I've done. And so it's, I like drawing that visual parallel to what I'm trying to say through the story. And funeral, I feel like, both in Eastern and Western culture, when I, attended my grandpa's funeral that was in China, and yet flower was like a big theme. It's a celebration of life. It's a celebration of an end. So, it's, that's sort of how it came about. And it's, I think flower have a dual meaning of like both being very beautiful, and very sad. So, yeah.
Yeah, they definitely do, right? Because you get flowers on your birthday, you get flowers on your wedding day. There are lots of flowers at a funeral. So I really like that. Now, was the tub scene, was that a challenge to film with the flowers all? Because that looked challenging to me. I was watching it trying to figure out how you did it.
Yeah, that was absolutely a challenge. I personally I think something that I learned about my filmmaking experience this time around was just being very open to possibilities of change when challenges come about, kind of pivoting. And initially, when I planned this, it wasn't all going to be practical effects. I was, me and the team were thinking about, okay, how can we do this with visual effects? How do we do it in post, and how do we plan around that? And it was just extremely difficult with the sort of budget constraint that we would have. And then we pivoted. We were like, okay, what if we do something practical? In that tub, we literally had my art director, who like constructed the costume with me and did all that. He was hiding under the And in the close-ups, he was like, it was humanly manipulated. And then in some of the other shots, it was sort of shot reverse, and then I cut out some frames to kind of make it look at a little bit more, with momentum and stuff. So it was a whole thing. It was all like sort of like shot on camera and then edited.
Well, you
Yeah,
did good job.
Thank you.
And then another time we get flowers is at the theater, right? So I am going to move to Roxanne. Did not expect the ending at all. When she spit his tongue out, I was like, whoa, so wow, she really bit into him. Are you a theater person, or how did this story come to you? Is it self-reflective, or is it just a narrative that you wanted to share?
Well, I come from theater originally. So I went to theater school to be a theater director and teacher instead of film school. So that's where I came from. And I also worked at the actual theater that you see as the location. And for me now, the film business and the theater world sort of came together in this film, my first actual film that I made. And the story, of course, Me Too is well known for a couple of years now, and also in the Netherlands still growing, and more stories come up. And also the fact that as a woman in the entertainment industry, you have an expiration date was something that I am very aware of. Although I am still in my 30s, it's still something I think about. And I have dealt with several older white men high up in the hierarchy in the film industry that were denigrating towards me. I'm very short, you can't see that now, so I'm this like short youngish girl who's always script supervising and assistant to the director. And then I don't know, sometimes I feel people don't take me seriously, although I'm very experienced. And I got this feeling like, I want to punch back and make something that has a lot of my anger in a funny way in this arena.
You did a great job showing that. Yeah, it was your lead actor did a great job just kind of portraying that simmering anger right underneath. And I liked a lot of the visuals from yours were very subtle, like the two men who were standing in front of her door when she had to go by. I liked that because it wasn't in your face. You all did that in your films. You weren't in my face with the message that you wanted me to take away, and yet I still got it loud and clear, and you did it really, really well. So Anton, let me ask you again then, what was the biggest challenge for you in this film? Was it to portray that aspect of mental health real well? Because your actors were fabulous in it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, I think you really nailed it. I mean, I think first and foremost, obviously, is doing a lot of research and trying to be respectful of, there's just been this tendency in the past, of course, to sort of exploit mental illness, whether for all kinds of different genres. So I wanted to make sure that, I kind of not only just asked a lot of questions, made sure that it was sort of respectful, because we do take some creative license, and even that I was really worried about, especially with the ending. I was pleasantly surprised that nobody really brought that up as a red flag, what we do with the ending, but I felt it was a strong parallel to the whole story. And so, there was thankfully, I spoke to a lot of people who were in this exact same situation, and they would say that some of the things that they go through are even more hurtful than what happens in this story. And so it was really important not just to make another film about Alzheimer's, because there's a lot of great ones out there, but to make a story about people who have loved ones who are suffering from Alzheimer's is a little bit more of a little more uncharted territory in some ways, and that's what really drew us in. And then, you know, I mean, there's that entire side of it that we want to be respectful of, but it's also the LARPing community, because LARPing has been misrepresented on screen so much as well. And so, as you know, like, you know, any kind of huge subculture with so many fans, you know, we want to be respectful of them. And so the first thing we did was kind of reach out to the biggest LARP community in Canada, which is Underworld LARP, and speaking to them directly really helped influence the story. They even had input on the story of what would happen at certain points. A lot of original ideas got scrapped. Even the whole, I think the journey of the character kind of was revised based on feedback. So I would say that there were many challenges, of course, but just workshopping the script before, during production, and even after and editing really helped that. So, and I think, just like, as I'm sure all the other directors would attest to, is ultimately that just getting a film off the ground is a miracle in itself. And so it's just, you know, my hat's off to everybody who's even able to make one, because it is so much harder than it looks. I really would love the whole forum on just finding out how short filmmakers do it, because it's just like, you know, even for someone like me, who I've worked in advertising for a long time, I found it very difficult to even find anyone interested enough to help. And this is really about begging and borrowing and stealing wherever you can, less so about stealing, but actually in some ways locations comes to that. You know, when it comes to locations, you sort of,
Yeah.
you know, if one's looking, you have to do it. So I can't get permits for everything. So yeah, so hopefully that's not a, you know, hopefully that answers your question a bit.
No,
So
it
many
does
more.
totally.
Write a book about the challenges, really, you know. So,
Every director, I think that what Wendy said, where as directors you need to be able to pivot with the challenges that come while you're on set, because especially when you have a limited budget and but you want to be faithful to the story, and I think all of you want to be faithful to the subject matter as well, because it's all relevant right now. Like all of these topics are hot topics. I hate saying that, because they should just be things that we're respectful of. But I liked the ending. I thought it tied the movie nicely together. I didn't feel offended or like you took a cheap cut to get to the end. I thought that it was well deserved, and I liked it. And it's in part because your actors were so strong. But I also felt, Monty, that your lead actor he portrayed, first of all, I loved his haircut. I was like, what's going on there? I loved it. And I liked that he was a hair cutter. So it just kind of built his character for me, who he was, without saying a lot, which I love in a film. He's an actual real actor. Yes, he's not one of the, no, he wasn't.
That's what I'm saying. Like, literally, the mom, we couldn't find, we asked
I missed that.
We asked his mom, we asked like other people that they would play his mom, and we couldn't find it. So we had to go to an actor in Detroit to play the mother, but everyone else is a non-actor in the film.
Wow, he did a great job. Like, I felt his pain, you know, very clearly without him saying much. And I think a lot of that is attributed to, like what I said before, that the imagery that you brought to the film, playing the community within that barbershop against just hands wiping mud on them. Like, to me, this, you know, the very lonely aspect of doing this with the community aspect and how it hit everybody so deeply. I think you did that really well. You played those opposites really well.
I have to say real quick, shout out to Roxanne, to like theater directors becoming film directors, because that's Matt and I too. Matt and I come from the theater world. We also teach theater, and only recently have been started to sort of, you know, go into the film world. So I think that part of it is that we have that language, that we know that we can talk to people, but also Marcus came in immediately, like he was like, I'm gonna become Mark. And I was like, who are you, Daniel Day-Lewis? What's going on here? Aren't you were a barber acting for the first time? And he was like, I'm gonna become him. And I was like, okay, wow, all right.
So, all right, method acting.
Yeah, seriously.
So did you find, I have two more questions. I know we're hitting the 20-minute mark, so I have one more for Roxanne and one more for Wendy. So Roxanne, did you find, and I guess this question could have gone to you as well, Marty, but Roxanne, did you find that coming from a theater background, because I have a theater background as well, did you find it easier to talk to your actors and make that aspect of filmmaking go smoothly? Like, I know there's a lot of things that are hiccups within. There's the technical side, there's the filming side, and then there's pulling the performance from your actors. Did you find that your theater background helped with that?
Yes, definitely. And thanks, Monty. Likewise, I very much look forward to see all your films. So I will email you afterwards. No, I did feel that it went smoothly, the directing of the actors, of the acting. And also I had to come up with a play because I had a film about a theater play, but then I was thinking, shit, what will the play be? I have to also direct a play within this film. So I made something that hints towards King George. It isn't something that was a bit making fun maybe of the higher theater without totally make fun of it, because I always also have a big love for theater. So that was also a challenge to how to take the theater world seriously and still make people love it, but let them see the other side of it. So I was trying to find the balance there. But with the actors, I felt very confident when I was there on set, and it's also where other directors where I work for use me for. If the acting is not good, they call me on set. So that's something I wasn't worried about. But there were a lot of other things that were challenging, of course. But this was something that I thought, yes, this is a good thing that I came from theater school. Yeah.
One less thing to worry about. Got your actors in line. So Wendy, the other question I had for you, I liked how in your movie you took East and West and kind of collided them. Right? You used subtitles for some of it, and you used English for some of it. Was that always the intent? Like, did you want to show the universality of mourning and grieving and trying to hide that emotion? Was that your intention, or why did you choose to do that?
Yeah, that was something that was sort of, I guess, massaged and worked through as the story was being composed. As I was writing this, so I was born and raised in China before moving to Canada or to the U.S. So, at the time of my grandpa's passing and when this all happened, when I initially wrote it, the first draft was like totally set in China. And then as we kind of consider how we want to shoot it, it became obviously very difficult to build China here in the West. So we kind of pulled into, some of my friends who have read my script, and we kind of worked through this together. We thought about pulling in some of my recent experiences, living in the West as someone who grew up in China and have like integrated in the culture and the bilingual aspect of all of that. We decided to just have this as, a funeral that's set, abroad from an immigrant family. And it totally worked. It still kind of ties a little bit to my background. And again, that sort of suggests the universality of that. And, also I feel like Asian family, even as they immigrate to the West, I feel like, Canada and the US, people here are a lot better at expressing their emotions. They emphasize emotionality a lot more than back home in Asian families. So I feel like that was maybe an interesting clash working with my actors as well through this whole process. My actor, he is Korean American, so we were talking about that a lot. And as we're working the character too, he's had his problems with his father, so it became very personal for the both of us. I think that was sort of also like a blessing in disguise that we were not able to fabricate the world of China here in, so yeah.
Everything on set happens for a reason, and usually what results from it is something that's stronger than the original, because you have to dig deep and figure out a creative way to address, a conflict or a situation, or maybe the light doesn't work. I think that you all did a fabulous job with your short films, and I really have to say kudos to all of you, because I enjoyed all of them. They all hit me in an emotional way, and I'm really happy to have been able to spend this time with you. So thank you all very much.